You will listen to join the meeting.
Hello?
Hello. Hi, Diane. This is Tanya.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. We're here.
Yeah. Okay. So the next producer should be on momentarily. Or, yeah.
And wants to know if I dialed in or logged on to my computer, both.
I see the phone icon now. This is Jennifer with WebEx.
Okay, Jennifer, you are producer today?
Yes. Do you want to promote my producer up to a panelist?
Sure, I'll do that. Go.
All right, thank you. And then did you want me to go ahead and load your slide deck and such?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the host role real quick.
Okay.
And that's done for us. And so with assigned privileges, let's see. Disable chat for attendees so that they have to send all questions to the Q&A panel.
That's your call.
I'm okay to have that there, I guess.
You want to go ahead and let them send in messages through both Q&A and chat?
Yep, I'm not. What is Q&A? I don't remember that.
Where they can ask questions and then you click on the question, you can answer them privately, or if you do a Q&A session at the end, this lets attendees log questions that you can answer at the end.
Okay.
If some companies do Q&A sessions at the end of the conference.
Okay. Well, this is I plan to do that today. Is I'd like them to raise their hand and have that little sign, and then have me call on them, and then they will do star mute. We keep everything muted unless the participants do their mute and unmuting themselves.
Okay. Want to go ahead and do live Q&A?
Yes, I want live Q&A, and then I'm okay to have that chat function there, and I will try to tell them that I may be able to look at it, but if they really want my attention, that they should try to raise their hand. So.
Okay. Well, I just want to point out with live Q&A, if you Look under the participant panel. Do you see where our names are listed there?
Yes.
Okay, you scroll down below that. Do you see where it says attendees 6? Okay, do you see anything below that, or do you need to click on it first so that it'll populate what's down there?
No, I see call user 3 and 7 and Claire. Hi, Claire and Lori and.
Hi,
okay.
Diane.
Yeah.
I somehow have two things I'm in as I think call-in user 7 as well. Do you
Correct.
hang up and call back in?
It only matters if you're planning on asking a question live, because if you plan on asking a question live, once you're called on, we won't know, like, if more people come in as call-in users. Like, I can't tell which one of those call-in users right now is Claire or which one is Lori. So when it comes to actually for them to speak, then see Lori has a phone next to her name. That took her attendee ID. So if you want to ask a question, you'll want to hang up and dial back in and just make sure that you enter that, I believe they call it, I know you have a different teleconference, your attendee ID.
Oh.
You can find by clicking your
see it,
unique attendee ID.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks.
There we go.
Bye.
Sure. Bye. That's the only thing, ladies, is that if they if attendee calls in and doesn't enter that in, we don't know which line to unmute.
Okay.
So they'd be able to ask a question live, so they might sit there with their hand up. We can always send them a chat, though, letting them know, you know, that they will need to have the phone icon if they plan on asking a question.
Yeah. Okay. We try to tell them that ahead of time, but it doesn't always work.
Hey, I understand. Yeah, they don't always listen to the fine details, huh? But that's okay.
Well, this is our first time again for this year, so we'll take everybody a while to get back in the groove. It took me a second to remember everything, too.
Yes, definitely. Now, let's see. I'm going to leave all on and not worry about that. Attendee list displayed, or would you like attendees not to see who's in?
If it's not, I'm going to say leave them in so we can see each other and know who's here.
As panelists, you'll be able to see the attendee list, just not the attendees themselves. Do you want to keep it more private for people?
Really?
Okay. Some companies, if you're not all from the same company, you know what I mean.
Oh, okay. No, we're trying to create a community here, so I'm happy with that.
Okay,
sounds
good.
Looks like you're back in. So
I'm back in, Diane. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Are we planning on doing cues in at all for the scholars?
I don't have it on any of my things. I'm into what we're thinking.
Lizzie Matthew, another faculty, and myself from William Patterson just attended the final Cues in Faculty Institute. I think it would be really helpful to the scholars since it's starting to really be integrated into curriculums and textbooks and things.
Yeah. And
I would be willing to do something for you if you would like.
Okay. Well, gosh, I will take you up on that offer. I'm kind of thinking maybe that day that we're at face to that in
February or April?
Well, I'm going to say February because that April meeting, you know, we'll do the graduation and everything.
Right.
And
okay. That would be fine.
Yeah, and I can.
Yeah.
Let's kind of target that, and you and I can talk a little bit more. I haven't put that session all together, but the person that's doing it, I know. You know, evaluation, and we can bundle, frame around that to some extent. So, no problem.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, thanks for that, and I agree totally that we should. And I do think we had last year breakout sessions on that, but it may not have hit too many people. And
yes, I don't remember anything on it myself, so.
Now probably people are looking at curriculum more and everything.
Right.
Janice, Claire, are we done talking here?
Yes, thank you,
okay.
Diane.
Hello. Okay, sure. Yeah, Janice, are you there?
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
Okay. And we're looking forward to being online with everybody. And I see that Lori's with us as well.
Can you hear me?
Do.
Oh, good. I've never done this before.
Well, looks like you got the hang of it because you logged in correct, and I can hear you, and presume you can hear me.
I can.
That's why I logged in now, because
anything.
sometimes you get issues logging in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Promote Janice up to a panelist.
No, I think the people that need to be panelists is really just me and you, I think.
Okay.
The one I want to be sure is, though, how to scroll down this list of attendees.
Sure. Just go ahead and use the little scroll bar on the side of the participant panel. Is that working for you?
Move the panel over a little more. Is that what I have to do?
Possibly. You still have all the panels like with the chat and stuff, correct?
I have, but it's working better now to move this over. No,
Yeah, if it's a higher resolution or something, maybe.
Still don't have the bar. Oh, that's
click in the panel and then scroll up and down. Just click inside that panel with your mouse then.
No, I'm using my mouse, but nothing's doing. Let me see if I can move this over a little more. Well, I don't know. More.
Let's see. Try clicking on like the WebEx producer and it's blue.
It's green.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is the whole line where on mine highlighted blue if you click on it?
No, the tip has a. Oh, here, I'm good now. I see it.
Okay.
Now it popped up. Okay, so right now we have 7 people. Right.
Now, Dan, who is going to pass or present the slides? Like, who's going to advance them?
Me.
Go ahead and pass you the presenter's ball now.
That'd be great.
All right. And are you controlling the slide deck throughout?
Yeah, I'd like to. Let me see if I can.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay. And are you using the keyboard to that?
No, I'm in mouse.
Perfect.
Top toolbar there.
That's perfect. You can also use the keys on your keyboard, but sometimes if you don't click on slide it, they won't advance for you. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'll just test one more time to be sure I've got it. Yeah, we're good.
You got it.
Okay. I see that Julia Asleta has joined us. Julie, there? Regan and Marianne McDermott, are you there? If Julianne,
it looks like they haven't dialed in yet. They've logged into the WebEx, but they're dialing in now. It looks like.
Okay, great. We Jen, have maybe about 10 or so people for whom this is the first time. So I'm wanting to be really mindful that everybody knows how to do this.
Okay. If a call-in user, we can instruct them. They can still talk to us, like you were seeing with Lori. They still talk to us. They just will want to dial back in if they have a question. So watch for them to come and see if we have any more call-in users. Well,
okay. And people just do call in and they don't, log into their computer.
Sometimes, yeah.
We know that they're with on the computer, but I do nothing.
I'm a rule follower, so I did what I was supposed to do.
So they view your beautiful slides that you worked on.
Yeah, well, they have them ahead of time.
Oh, good. Now, do you want me to do any sort of intros for you, or are you just going to go ahead and start, since it seems to be a pretty close-knit little group that you have?
I can start. I like to start pretty much on time. We'll look and see how we're doing, and then I'll tell Tanya. Tanya, are you going to be the one that's doing the recording?
Yes.
Should I me to cue you?
Yes, please. I would just need the host thing back, Jennifer, to do
Oh,
it.
sorry.
Okay, no problem.
So I'll say, Jennifer, if you can really hang in there with us for maybe the first 5 minutes to be sure that we're all.
Oh, I'll be
Yeah.
on for the whole thing because I'm recording it for you as well.
Oh, okay.
It's included in your assist because it was a premium.
Oh,
Do you know
okay.
what file type or recording type you would like? Is it have a variety? If you're not sure, I can look on your site if you're going to go with the recordings that you've done in the past.
Okay.
I can look that up right now and kind of tell you what. See if it's a spell for you.
Well, you're talking to Tanya about this.
Okay, no problem.
I'm going to say hello to Patricia.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Okay, thank you.
I'm so that we got our, I've got your good email address. Did you get something from me this morning?
Yes, I did, thank you. And Dr. Foley had forwarded some emails that she had received, so I actually was up to date, but I said, oh, I really should tell you that I have no email address.
Okay. Well, I had you on my list, and something was wrong, but I have, if what I sent this morning, that was my test of it and everything, so I think we should be pretty good to go.
Thank you.
Hi, Pat, Lori.
Hi, I have to tell you, this is my first webinar, so this is a little bit strange for me.
It's mine too. It's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it actually is.
Yeah. So, and you know, like is that everybody gets to learn how to do it because the topic today, of course, is about teaching at a distance, and it's a really great connect people who are in various places and to provide some that kind of get started. For those of you, this is the very first time of doing a webinar. I'm going to just kind of be sure that everybody's on the same page, and for all of us who have done this for a while, including me, I want to be sure that we're all together. So I'm going to take a few minutes to be sure that everybody's situated here. Then we'll start recording because, as you know, we archive these sessions. So just a reminder here that everybody should be able to see themselves on the attendee list. And if we like it if you have a phone next to your name, that means that you've logged in correctly. Right now, I still have the process for logging in so that you can see it. You've clicked on your screen from your email, and you can dial into that 800-273 number, and you can then put in your access code, and then you have a private or your own attendee. The one you see there is mine. So be sure that you have all that, and it looks like we really have most everybody online there. Okay, and then it really works for us is to have all of the lines muted so that we don't have any background noise. And then in order for you guys to speak, you will raise your hand and I'll call on you, and then you can on your phone push *6. But I want to be sure that everybody knows how to raise their hand. And if you would look there just beneath participant box, you should see a little icon that has a hand there. I'm going to push mine, and you should be able to see at the top. And that's the signal that you want to be recognized to speak. So I'd like to see everybody's hands raised, but to be sure that you know where that is. Okay. And if you see the participant list, as you should be able to, you will see that how everybody has done this. Okay, so everybody's cool there, looks like. And I'll give one more minute. And then you need to click on that hand and lower down so that I'm not distracted by wanting to know who's want to talk or not. So put your hands down. And then remember that it's the star 6. Okay. I think we're probably good to go, so we need to pass the ball over to Tanya to be the host. And
Dr. Billings?
Yes?
This is Diane Sucre. I'm on the line, but I'm trying to log in, so I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And, guys, you can continue to log in, and it won't disrupt the flow of the session. So, go right ahead. But thanks for letting me know.
And real quick, can you click on the slides because all we're seeing right now is the info tab?
Okay, here we go.
Perfect. You're advancing slides, then Tanya won't need the presenter's ball. She's already the host.
Okay. Well, let's get ready now. Tanya, you let me know when we've got the recording going. And I'll start the official one.
You can go ahead.
Yes? Okay, great. Well, welcome back to our collaborative learning community. Great to be with everybody on this webinar, and I know for some of you this is the first time, and for us it's kind of fresh in our memory and how we do this, but it ends up being kind of a fun way to be together on a Friday afternoon. We're sunny here in Indianapolis, but we had our first snow last night, but can't complain because I know you guys in northern New Jersey had a real bad batch of it. So anyway, the topic for today is teaching and learning in online courses. And here I'm just going to buzz through a few more slides that you have here. Again, just reminding you how to do this if you need it. And everybody should have their with you so you can refresh your memory. And again, we try to keep all lines muted. And when you want to participate, raise that little icon and raise your hand. And then star 6 will unmute, and then put yourself back onto the mute by star 6 again. So here we go. The topic, teaching and learning in online courses. And this last, I did the survey that we've been doing at the end of the CLC to see how things are going and what suggestions you have for content for this year. And this was one of the topics that popped up. And, of course, I just right on that because some of you may know this was my program of research, was trying to uncover the best practices for teaching and learning online. So I'm thrilled to be able to talk, this session. But thinking about it, I can teach a 3-credit course on this topic, or I can do a week's workshop, and was down to an hour and a half. What on earth would be what do? So then I thought I would do it as a question and answer, and some of you have raised your questions, and I'm going to answer them, and the other questions are ones that come up often. So that's kind of how I thought we would approach this particular session. Now, if you've had a chance to look at this, and your favorite question, or the thing that you most need to know at this point in time, is here. Let's get on the table. So I'll be sure to stop now and then to be sure that everybody who wants to ask more questions or get more information, that we have time to do that. So that's that. Star 6 comes in handy. And then I'm going to do, of course, try to be a little interactive here, because that's one of the best practices, is to active learning. So we'll try to do a little bit of that too. So one other comment I want to make before we get going. When I was looking around for a nice template for this, I found this one, and all of a sudden it kind of seemed like it was a metaphor for teaching learning, in distance ed, distance accessible courses, because when you walk into your online course, or really walking, when you sit down at your computer and go into it, things are just a little off kilter a bit. And you have to kind of get reoriented, and I think probably by the time we're done with this headset and getting used to reading it on an angle, at the an hour and a half, we'll have have the hang of it. And really kind of the metaphor for, using the technology and working with your students in this new environment, if it is new for you. So we'll kind of keep that metaphor in mind. So kind of moving ahead here, people always want to know why do we do this? And while we're titling this online, it's really about distance accessible, because most of the things, the technology that we have now, we can do. And I will talk a little bit more, about how to blend and what to think about when you do blending. But why did we even start out thinking to do that in the first place? Well, I like to think of it is that the main reason that we do this is to be helpful to the students. And we can do many things in an online or distance accessible environment than we can in the classroom. Of course, there's some things that work better in the classroom too, but we're really trying to be sure that we're helping the students learn. And the thing that really comes up of why do it, and these are the decisions that schools have to make, and I know many of you have through these decision processes, is to take the courses accessible for students. And we, if you're working with post-licensure students or students who cannot get to a central place, such as a university, the campus, using some distance ed technology really helps them to get there. And one thing, link this back to when we were together at the meeting, and you heard several of the presentations about the RN to BSN programs, and all of them were using distance technology to make their courses accessible for students. And more students are choosing this way of learning, and it's almost something that schools need to be thinking about if they're wanting to recruit and attract students who maybe just aren't right in the same city where the university is. So then there's, the flexibility too. And then I will bring this back. I'll probably reiterate it again. But we really are trying to help students learn, and that we are using the best practices, which we'll talk about here a little bit. So the learning, we're trying to focus on, helping the students meet program outcomes and competencies of, whatever. And in ways, because our teaching shifts, we can focus more on higher-level learning, getting the students to size information, to create, to be working in higher levels of the domain, and not just sitting in the classroom listening. So we're really trying to do that. And, we're trying to be sure that, there's intentional design of these courses to help the student, have learning activities that help them to get the content going. Again, it's all about the students, making things accessible for them. There's lots of things that you can do in an online course that make this more individual for the students. They can take tests over and over again until they get them right. They can do, just in time. They can pull things up the minute before they need to have it ready. And there's just lots of options that don't get implemented in a classroom. And I'm going to stop because I see Ola's hand raised. And Ola, do you have a question for us? If so, put star mute and ask it. Star 6 to unmute. I'll say that better.
You're not able to ask a question because Ola doesn't have a phone icon next to her name.
Okay.
So one of the call-in users.
Okay.
She shall be able to press star 6, though, I believe.
Okay. So, do you want to try star 6 on your phone? Okay. When you get there, if you get there, I'll hear you. So, but otherwise, I'm going to move ahead here. So we'll keep your students in mind. So I'll start. Anything more you want me to say about why to do distance ed? or other comments that you wanted about why you're doing it or not doing it? I don't think I see any questions. And Laura, do you still have your hand up from when we were practicing? And Kara's a hand up.
Diane, I was trying to get my hand down, but I wasn't sure how to do that.
Okay, do you want to say? I think you just click on it.
And then just click on the hand again.
Okay. Thing is happening when I, it's highlight. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, let me give it a whirl.
Okay. I'm taking this to mean nobody else wants to comment. On to the next question, and this is the one that comes, particularly when people are wanting to consider they should do something distance ed, offer a course or a pro whatever. People want to know, does it work? Is it a good thing? And yes, that's my bottom line answer for you.
I got it, Diane. I'm through the telephone.
Oh, thanks for letting me know.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. So, yes, and when the faculty that I've worked with, when they start saying, "Oh, this isn't going to work," then I know that we're seeing symptoms of resistance. So, yes, here's some of the evidence, and there is so much out there about this now. Even in the last month or two, people are still writing, doing the studies that are trying to be sure that it's working for them or for students in general. So here's what the literature would tell us, that the students, as well as in any other way, whether in the classroom, whether, we used to test it against computer-assisted instruction, against whatever. Learning takes place, and I'm saying no more media comparison studies. Everybody wants to compare, the student assistance ed course to something else, the classroom version of it, and truly you're going to find out anything much different. We call that the no significant difference phenomenon in instructional technology, because it does work. And then the research that I colleagues, and you'll see it in many other places too, the student can be socialized. All the associate degree students all the way up to PhD students can socialize when they're taking their entire program on, through using distance ed media. And students are satisfied. They can learn in all these different courses, so then you don't need to worry about comparing one type of degree to another. The same things there. And when the 7 principles of good education are used in the courses, and we'll talk in more detail about those, the effectiveness just goes, skyrockets. And when it's not there, the students, when the principles aren't being added into the courses, the students are less satisfied and, less realized and all of that. So, and if you're on satisfaction, that generally speaking now, most students like the fact that the courses are accessible and convenient, and yet we still hear, the issues about the age of the students, if they're aren't grown up in the information age and are comfortable using the computer and all of that. They get that they may be dissatisfied, but once they get the hang of it, they tend to come along and be happy. And I think, Liz Speakman and Janet Phillips, when we talked last time together at the annual meeting, kind of said that there are NDBS and students are happy. And sometimes at my school, we chose technology because we needed to increase our enrollment in some of the programs where they're dropping, and sometimes it's a business decision. Okay, so yes, it all works. We don't need to worry about that. Put that to rest and move on. So any other comments or questions at this point about what we've discussed so far, particularly about any of this evidence. Okay, well then let's move ahead. I'll wait just. Lori, question? Lori?
No.
Nope.
And I have no questions, but I can't get my hand down.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's no problem. I'll keep in mind here. Okay. Thanks for letting me know, though.
Okay.
Okay. So, the fact is most of our distance accessible programs and courses now are really more or less blended because we have, a wide range of technologies, and it's just simply getting better. So we can, easily put the campus courses, mix and match them with some online aspects of a course. Many master's programs and most doctoral programs do something, some kind of an immersion. I have a friend who's working on her just starting a DMP program down in southern Indiana. They had an immersion weekend, 3 days, that they're down and kind of got started with the program. The rest of it now is going to be online, and probably where the biggest surge of successful programs is that DMP, because those students there are working, many of them as practitioners, and are still have full-time jobs. And then you can blend all this with the Learning Lab, and sometimes some of the programs bring back to the Learning Lab for simulations or to a center, or bring back for checkoffs on some particular kind of skill. And so you can put that all in the mix. And then, what's online, and I'm assuming everybody knows about what a learning management system is. That's, like the Blackboard or WebCT, and some of those brands that you may be familiar with. And I would guess most of your schools, your universities have something, in some of a learning management system, and I know many of you are offering distance ed courses. And now we can blend this mix, the webinar. And again, lots of schools have, something similar to this. The one our school uses is Adobe Connect, and, it's just part of the tool set for faculty. So we can, some synchronous learning time, and we can have asynchronous, and we can have them come to the campus. So this mix and match, all doable. And here is the trick, is get this mix appropriate. And what it really to be thoughtful. And sometimes I've seen faculty do is they say, we've got to have the students in front of us, so they have them come to campus for, some various kinds of things that maybe really isn't pedagogically useful. So I'm sure that if you're thinking about mixing, or, one of the questions that comes up is how do you do the mix? And here are different places that we can mix the mix, but you ask yourself, what is it that you're wanting to get accomplished, and can it be done best? So, a thoughtful, deliberative approach here, and here's, again, kind of a soapbox, because this is one of my favorite topics, but, you want to be sure that you're planning this thoughtfully and that you're starting with the big picture. Generally speaking, I am not so fond of just having 1 or 2 courses online, because it's a lot of investment to get them there. So if you're going to go that far, it's really helpful to have at least a track, a focus area, something where you have 3 or 4 courses, or better yet, the whole program. But when you're looking at, say, a curriculum, you want to, think about what it is that you're get accomplished, and where should it take place. And here's a little issue to think about in blending is, it's pretty easy to say, oh, we'll do everything that we used to do in the classroom, and oh yes, by the way, as part of that classroom, we had them in the Learning Lab. Oh yes, let's add a learning management system and have them do 2 activities every week. Pretty soon, you have more work for the students and for you, the teacher, than is really necessary to achieve the curriculum. So you want to be sure that you that. And then in this blending, you need to think, what is it the student is doing, and how much time is it going to take them to do it, and what are they doing in the class, and are they coming together for, how learning. And what I really love about being able to blend is about what needs to be, where you're helping the student learn, the content, so to speak, and then the aspect of all of our content and all of our courses is the application in clinical context, which usually takes place, of course, in the clinical, but also can take from the classroom or the sim center. So some of these things you can offload easily, the learning of the content. And a colleague in the physics department, he calls it just-in-time teaching. And he has the students take quiz on the topics that are going to be discussed in the class the day, or the sometimes he puts it a day beforehand. And they don't answer questions. Fortunately, then they, maybe he doesn't say it this way, but they should not come to class because they're not prepared. So you can offload some of this prep, and you can give quizzes or whatever to be sure that they are prepared to come to class and take the next step with you, because you're the content and expert that can help. So that's a good there about the blending. We need to be sure you have in your vocabulary synchronous versus asynchronous. We can, again, make judicious choices about when to use the synchronous, which that's what we're doing now. We're all together on the webinar. Synchronous also could be in the classroom. And then the asynchronous is more, where the students are doing the work at their own speed and their own time, and usually that's run through the learning management system. So part of the decision about how to blend and how to use synchronous and asynchronous is what it is that the learning task is, and how to help make decisions based on that. You'll see here the asynchronous down the bottom. You face a situation where your students never will be able to meet at the same time, and that more then points in the direction of having pretty much of the online learning with learning management system, and blended with some moments on campus. If you have all these tool sets, it's you can really do a lot of interesting things here. And some programs have the student do some asynchronous work and give them 1 credit out of a 3-credit class during the week, and then 2 hours in the classroom. So there's just that's really fabulous about all the sign is that you can change up how you approach your teaching in the classroom and take advantage of all of this. Okay, so I'm going to stop here for a minute and be sure, does anybody have comments or questions about the aspect of all this? And I'm more or less thinking most of you have some sense of this anyway. And particularly those of you that have been asking these questions. So if we're still good to go, I'll keep rattling on then if we are. Next up, we're going to talk about the best practices. And this, the framework that I used in my research, and if you are reading the SIM research and Pam Jeffries' model of simulation, you'll see these same practices listed in that model. And I'm thinking most of you know what these are, but, and particularly those of you who were here last year, because I think every chance I tried to work it into the conversation. But anyway, this list of best practices derives from research that was conducted in 1987, but it still works in here. They synthesized a little literature and came up with these 7 practices. So there's the magic list, and let's talk about them. In context with distance ed. These in the classroom, the the truth of this as best practices in undergraduate education, but we know now that graduate students also follow these principles, and it works for them too. So anyway, here we are with, we set the high expectations, and we know that students are going to learn as online or in a distance accessible format as they do when they're on campus in a more or less traditional thing. And then the other expectation, or the other way that you get expectations, just like you do in the classroom, you need to explain to the students what it is that you want them to do, and that's where the syllabus comes in handy, and we state goals and competencies and so on. So we're communicating with the students what we want them to do. Online and in the classroom too, we have the grading rubrics and so on. So you want to be sure that you're explaining how everything's going to be evaluated and what your expectations are there. Okay. I'm on task, and this, in the context of online, means we need sufficient for chunks of things. And that's one thing that I like about being online is some unit of instruction needs 3 weeks to process and digest. So you can make modules. You don't have to be bound by the week schedule, which is really a function of the university's time frame, the 15 weeks in the semester or 12 or whatever it is. So you can be thinking more, how much time is it going to take for the students to process something. Time on task also means that the students are expected to spend some time here. These, of course, online or not, it really is necessary to spend some time. And people how much, and I always pull up the Carnegie rule, which says 3 hours of prep for 1 hour in the classroom. But if we do that realistically, and all of you are students, you can answer that question for yourself. We probably aren't coming up to that, but a guideline, and it might work. But then the other thing with any of these distance accessible programs is we want to be sure that the time that the students are spent learning is meaningful. And one place where this starts bogging down is if we have lots of discussion forums, and the students are reading and responding in ways that aren't productive of learning. So we want to be sure that we're designing the courses that we're good with that. Okay, so the big thing here, the classroom or any other place, is the students need to be active, they need to be engaged. We've talked about the literature about student engagement. Actually, here a little bit, but the about nursing student engagement when compared to college students is that our nursing students were not as engaged as people in the liberal arts, the students in the liberal arts courses, and the research hypothesizes because we do so much lecturing and not enough activities. So one thing that really I like about the online is it forces you to think, what does the student need to do to produce that they and the teacher can see that they have understood and applied the content. So there's a lot of activities that you can do with the students to produce the work, then they can get some kind of a feedback either from themselves or from their classmates or from the teacher. And of course students can create these activities too. But learning activities are things like solving a case study, writing a 1-minute paper, doing debates, things like that. And they are not assignments, and they do not need to be graded. So you can have students doing activities that do not necessarily result in grade, but you are looking at what they're doing and giving them feedback about it, and you're giving them some kind of comment. So I have another slide about active learning because it's probably the most important part of a web course, because the courses, if not designed, can be deadly. They're not being active. So fewer activities and more learning. And I'll say that I've learned this lesson the hard way too, in an online evaluation course for a teacher ed course. I had probably 20 activities for the students to do. Write a test, multiple choice test, write an essay test, do a clinical evaluation tool, on and on and on. But it was too much, even for me. I had to end up looking at all that. So then I got smart and tried to make level kinds of activities that embedded some sub-activities. And I think the students ended up learning more. I hated to part with all that, but in the end, after 2 or 3 iterations of it, it was much better. So this is the whole key, any kind of teaching, is the learning activities, something that's going to produce evidence that the students are on the right track for meeting the goal. And one thing that I've noticed over the years is there is confusion about discussion as a learning activity. And yet discussion is a learning activity. That's just one many. And courses where discussion forums are the only activity, it's deadly, and I'm not sure it's productive use of time. And on your part or the students. So, we need to think carefully here about how we're designing some activities for active learning. Of course, another principle is feedback. You know that from your own experience and from working with students too. And what's interesting is that the faculty member doesn't have to be the one that's giving feedback all the time. The students can give it to themselves. And one way is you can design the case studies and practice exams, and they can do them, and you can give them the answers, and they can practice and practice until they get it right. And the students can get feedback from each other, and they can do, through peer review or on their work through, work or blog wikis. And the story I would say there, as I was teaching a doctoral level synthesis course, and the students were to write a draft of a paper of their research synthesis. But before they were to hand it in, I had them exchange papers and give each other peer review, and I had a little checklist. And I had a student who did not understand the assignment, paired up with somebody who understood it very clearly, and aha learning for that other student before she had to hand it in to me was amazing. So just even reading other people's work. And in my classes, I always had the students post everything for everybody to see so that they could get ideas and they could see where their work was coming in relation to everybody in the class. And everybody learns much more. And we're enriched by the feedback. Okay. Students in distance courses are getting, feedback particularly if they're in a clinical setting. They're, getting it from experts that they can tap into, that they can network with, and the preceptors and so on. And of course, we have responsibility as faculty that we're still giving, monitoring everybody, all the students' progress, and we can do that in public or private email, certainly through the discussion forums, but. Sometimes he's hanging back a little bit, not giving feedback or responding to every single thing. Try to, get the big bang for the kinds of feedback that you're giving. And sometimes to say it, just like we do in the classroom, to the entire group about where people are having trouble learning so that everybody can benefit from it. Okay, so feedback's one of the 7 principles, and then interaction with classmates is important too. And this comes from some of the sociocultural learning theories, the constructivist theories that you may be reading about or have or will. And, this says that students from each other, so you want to be sure that you are giving them opportunity to do that. And good news is, one of the principles is that interaction with faculty also counts. So we're a key part of being active in the course. And communicating frequently with students. I would try to do that through a weekly update, kind of sizing key things and telling the students what was coming up in the future. One of Dr. students, she looks at when the teacher in the web courses show the love. And by that she meant she wanted to know that the teacher was there paying attention and appreciating all the good work that she was doing. So there's, well, in a minute, but soon it looks off kilter in the beginning. It will shape up so that you have a sense of who the students are and they have a sense of who you are, and the community comes together. It takes a little minute to get it going, but it does. So you want to be sure that the faculty's present and that you're there, not only for the formal aspects of the class, but some of the other things to do as faculty that are not related to the course, but related to the professional development of the student. So interaction with the faculty, and then I think the last one, if I've got these in order, the seventh principle is respect for diversity, and we take this to mean as providing options for how students like to learn and ways that they can apply the course concepts, and decide that they want to work as a group or individual, and certainly respect for people's ideas and being able to communicate respectfully. There we are, the 7 principles. I'll stop here for a minute before we do learning. Any questions, comments about these 7 principles? I think you probably all heard them, or they're intuitive. That's the other thing I like about them. They're really not rocket science here, but they are evidence-based, and they work. That's what our the research that I did with Helen Connors and Diane Ski, time and time again, the intercorrelations among those 7 principles were high, and then certainly when we were correlating them with outcomes such as satisfaction in learning and socialization and a couple other things, the more those practices were evident in the course, the students perceived them being there, the better everything turned. So I love those 7 principles. So questions or comments? I'm going to here and see if anybody has their hand raised. And looks like I don't know if it's a room, but go ahead and let me 6 to unmute. Do you want to ask a question or make a comment?
Can you?
I do.
Okay, good. No, I was just to comment on 2 things that you had said about the discussion boards and their use in the online learning. I had done that and used like a rubric to kind of, as a grading criteria, and I just wanted to know what you thought on that, because I know shouldn't be the only way you could assess and evaluate a student's learning, but also I know adds to their dialogue among each other.
Yes, great question, and probably we need to back up and say what is the purpose of that particular discussion forum, and so you get that clear, and then the next thing is you have to decide, are you going to grade it or not grade it, and you need to be clear with the students.
Right.
Part of it is. And
right, that expectation in the beginning, and when you're
yes.
Presenting the class in the beginning, that you'll be using the
right.
discussion boards, and this is how you're going to be graded on that, so the expectations are there, are really key.
Yes, and then the rubric, because that makes it clear to the students
exactly.
what to do, and it makes it clear and easy for you
right.
as the teacher to buzz through the assignments.
Right, and then you had just made another comment, which we learned sort of after the fact, so I thought for the second cohort it might be important that 3 hours of prep and 1 equals to 1 hour. If you could just comment on the Carnegie rule. I had never heard that, but then we learned it when we were doing our teaching practicum.
Okay. Well, this came out years ago, at least maybe 10, maybe 15 or 20. The Carnegie Foundation, they do a research and work about teaching and learning, and that's kind of what they came up with at that point in time, is that, for the students who are doing well, that's what it really took the 3 to prep to be, be ready to do good things in this room and to succeed and get the high grades. But when we cite something, that seems to be what we pull up, and we use that to inspire students to know that they have to do some work.
Okay.
At the same time, in this day and age, I'm not sure. And then if we think of nursing students, particularly post-baccalaureate students,
Mhm.
some of the topics in our courses, clinical ones, if you're being prepared to be a cardiac nurse practitioner and you work in an ICU, some parts of that are going to be easy, and you don't
Right.
need to spend 3 hours for one.
Right. Right.
If you work in OT and you're trying to be a cardiac person, you have to put it more. So that it varies by the student. So if you to have something to fall back on, that I think in this day and age and how
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, that makes sense because you have different technologies. I didn't know where that came from, but it's helpful to.
Yeah. But the point is, students have to put some effort for it.
Right. Right.
And later on here, I'm going to try to talk about how to manage your time. And one place where faculty in a classroom or online do too much work for the students. We get mixed up.
Right. Thank you.
Questions or comments? Okay. Well, now what I'd like you to do is a 1-minute paper, and some of you've done this. If you haven't, this is a great one. This is a phone and online. It's really works good. You can do it like we'll do it today, when we're saying this, but it's nice asynchronously too. So this is what I want you to do, and we'll probably have a little more than 1 minute, but do a quick design of a lesson topic with familiar with. It's a distance accessible course, and these are RN to BSN students, and most of them live 80 miles away. So that's the scenario. So quickly think through what technology are you going to use? Are you going to blend? What are you going to do about it? There, the synchronous, asynchronous, or how are you going to work that out? And specific, how will you integrate the 7 principles? Everybody pull out a piece of paper and give it a shot. And then what I would like here, I'm going to go ahead here and flip over this slide, and I'll come back. If I can't see you, if I were in the classroom, I'd kind of look around and see if people were bringing their hands or starting to talk to each other. But here I have to ask, when you're done, a little hand up, and when I see majority of you up, we'll come back and we'll do some sharing. Okay, so one paper and scenario. So just a quick thought here. Okay, don't see a lot of hands up, but let's just say more minutes. That's dirty. Ooh. Yeah, I'm here, and I'm gonna. It looks like we're getting a little critical mass here, so I'll say put your hands down so that, and I'll maybe click you off, or you can get yourself, so that I'm going to ask volunteers here about this. So when I ask again, you can, and I'll call on you for some examples. But you guys know that 1 minute paper, that's one of those class assessment techniques that quick way to be sure that the students have understood and can apply the concepts that you've discussed thus far. And you see how easy it is. Online, I just put this up there and tell them what about questions like this, so that we're clear with what's to be included, no more, no less. And the students post it, everybody sees it, and they can compare and contrast their work with each other, so maybe they get some different ideas and learn from each other that way. And when I grade it, then we'll have a little rubric, but usually what I do is I just read it quickly, and then pick the way my learning management system works. I can just click underneath it and send back some feedback or a grade, depending on how I'm going to do it. So here, the reason I'm doing this one is to get a lot of learning, get you thinking, and if you were in group, I would have you, discuss among your group, but we're all together here. So, we want to be sure that everybody's on board with the concepts. And just so that you know that we're really, I can only tell if you can apply, which means I know that you understood it, and you know it and you've understood it, and you can get to application, but we don't see at this point an analysis, synthesis, or evaluation. We need to do it a different kind of learning activity. Okay, enough. How about some examples here? Let's try to do 2 or 3 here. So, you want to volunteer? Want to be? Raise your hand, and then I can call on you, or I guess you could. I'm okay if you just jump in with your *6 to unmute and talk. Okay. Go for it. *6 to unmute. Patty, Ricci.
Hear me?
I can.
Okay. Actually, I think what I would do would be like a Blackboard type scenario, and probably what most of the didactic would be asynchronous, but then perhaps every 1 to 2 weeks have a synchronous session. And right from the beginning, I would just communicate, the limitations of the course, how long I think that things may take, and also I would want to know from students what their expectations of the course and also of the instructor, what do they feel that they need to get from either myself or from the course itself. And I like the idea of doing case studies, and I love this 1 minute paper. This is my first time with a 1 minute paper.
Okay.
So I think that I would actually incorporate a lot of this, and just, like in 1 minute, okay, what we just discussed, tell everything that you know.
Okay. But just to clarify about the 1 minute paper, you want to focus it on the learning outcome. So if we were saying the learning outcome here from this last little section was understands the 7 principles and how to integrate them into an online course, that's what you want to look for in that paper. one thing I want to ask you is, you said you were going to some asynchronous, and how are you going to do that?
Probably just have like depending on what, like if, because I'm Pete, so if I was talking about respiratory issues, the different conditions that they apply under that heading, have that up like in an outline form with then assigned readings. Then came to the synchronous when we all got together, basic questions, and then perhaps then do the case studies.
Okay, and then you would just, where are you going to be when you're synchronous?
Well, I mean, if we're 80 miles away, probably something as this format, like a webinar.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was wondering about.
Yeah.
And there may be some reason to bring them to campus or a center in their area. Great. Okay, you did. This is fast, and I'm going to call on somebody else. I'd like to hear a more focus too about these principles. That I kind of got the sense of how you were integrating them in there. But I'll give somebody else a chance to talk. But that idea was great. And put your second on mute with the *6. So
Okay,
Janine,
thanks.
call on Janine. Janine Cooper.
Hi.
Hi.
All right, I took a totally different look at the assignment, so maybe I'm on task, maybe I'm not. I was thinking it says design a lesson. I'm thinking a single lesson. So right now I'm immersed in this theory course with Dr. Foley. I'm hearing some chuckles.
Yeah.
So my assignment for them, or my lesson for them today, is to think about two theorists, whatever they want, because we've been talking about them now for a little bit. And I want them to compare and contrast the theorists. And I want them to do this on a blackboard that as post something, somebody else can post something else. So at the end, we have each theorist totally developed.
Okay.
So I'm thinking they're engaged, they're talking with one another, thinking that they are interacting with me as well. I'm providing some feedback. Certainly this is an active learning assignment. I'm thinking that it's a t- assignment in a lot of ways, so maybe expectations are up there, depending how it's laid out entirely. So I think I hit most of the what we were trying to do there.
Yeah. Well, so you did a great job. Just, if I were reading this, of giving you feedback, you understood the assignment and you got it complete. So it sounded like it was an asynchronous on the blackboard, and your way to set that up is if you can get some kind of a grid or 3 or 4 different forums where or some way that they are dealing with, the comparing and contrasting, I guess.
Yes.
So that it's easy to read. Maybe blog would be helpful, or a wiki, so that they add as go along.
Mhm.
So that would be good. Great job.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay. And and let's see. Another. Looks like Elisa has her hand up. Elisa, do you want to do the *6 and go?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would like to go.
How?
I'm a little too far in a minute. For an RN to Decent program, I thought about creating an optional course. Mine is on pain, so my thought was to do it on chronic pain in primary care, since that's where most of that treatment is headed. I use slide presentations for short lectures so that the guests understood the focus and where we were moving. I use a space for discussions for the nurses to go over their own experiences with patients, perhaps individual or personal experiences dealing with pain. I would have case studies available for different types of pain, such as pediatric trauma, adult workplace injury, age-related pain, and called pain responses. And then break those up into groups where you could either get together either on a blog or teleconferencing because there's lots of access to that doesn't cost a lot of money. They would work that in groups. If it's online or recorded on a blog, it's easy to grade with a rubric or to at least follow the learning to make sure they're on track. And to individually have them do like a 2-page essay or a 2-page summary of chronic pain patient looks like, how they would respond to the scenario, what type of treatments they would be responsible for, what type of outcomes they would be expecting.
Okay, sounds
That's
like
it.
Yeah, great. You got the technology, and most of those 7 principles showed up. The respect for diversity can come in where they could choose the case study, or they could design their own, or they could present a case with which they're familiar, so that they, it's real world for them. Another little doing something that I probably needed, but another tip for everybody to pay attention to, because similarities here where you're having the students produce some work that where they're getting answers and doing some compare and contrast, but we haven't gotten to some synthesis. And you can now, after the students do this first step, you can have them, in your case, Lisa, when they're looking at those case studies, you could have them go back and then say, take 3 of them, and what are the commonalities, what are the differences, and take it one more step, or how would you plan, or common interventions could be used here. So there's more that you can do with once you get the students out. But in terms of doing a minute paper, you did it great, and it's great. Okay, probably in the interest of time, thanks, Elisa. Going to call quits here. Several other of you want to comment. If I have time, I'll come back to you, Nancy. Sorry, I'm assuming you wanted to share rather than ask a question, so we'll leave that pending here. Okay, I am going to move ahead, but there you have the 1-minute paper. If you've never done one, you see how quick and easy it is. And I'll say I'm feel as a teacher here satisfied that you got the gist of what we were talking about with these 7 principles and the ins to think about when you're deciding how to deal, at a distance and synchronous versus asynchronous. And you can, we had some really interesting examples. They were all posted up. We would have all learned some, really interesting things here. Okay, but I'm going to move ahead. So we did that, and we need to talk a little bit about this business of the community, because that's something that people, a question that comes up, and it takes a challenge, but it can be done, and I'll just say from my years of doing online courses, I've, after the first 3 or 4 weeks, I always feel like I'm connected to the participants, just kind of feel connected to you guys, and even though we're not face-to-face right now. Anyway, what is community? What does that mean in an online course? And when people are working together here, and they trust and support for each other, and I do think the students work and learn about each other, even if they have never seen each other. My courses, when I was doing the teaching courses, we never had anything face-to-face. We all just, around the world. And most of the students really felt like they were being connected to each other and belonged to the course, and there was, a good give and take. And all this, then there is community. Then there's more sense of, the learning is easier and better, maybe even more efficient. The students are satisfied. They feel more connected to each other, which in research we're using that as an outcome variable. And then they feel, they become more socialized to the profession. So all of that, makes some sense. We have another framework for looking at this. People are now beginning to study this, and the particular model is called the Community of Inquiry model. And if anybody's interested, you can email. I'll give you some references on it. But what in that model, what it says is, in order for students to learn effectively, they need to have cognitive presence, which is that there and doing thinking, critical thinking, that we need teaching presence. The teacher needs to be there. In some ways, this is like the 7 principles, and the teacher needs to be visible and active and so on in the course. And then we need the social presence, which is the what we're really trying to create when we're here with the creating this community. And that social presence is, we've heard research about social presence in online courses too, and the more there is, the more of these outcomes occur. So you go about creating this in an online course, and a lot of it really happens with the course at the course design level, and that's another whole 3 credit courses how to design these courses. But creating a sense of warm fuzziness, and that the students, collegiality develops, that you activities that the students can work together, that there's I think the community kind of comes through this learning activities. And I think most of you had them work together in groups. It's a good way for them to get back with each other. And again, all of these 7 principles, and how much how the faculty kind of responds and available and provides opportunities for students to participate. Certainly at the very beginning, the students need to introduce themselves. If you can use tools like little video clips, the students now pretty easily can post those about themselves and introduce themselves, faculty too. And technology called voice threads, and I think some faculty like using those because you put it as the students recording some comments, and the faculty can record too, and you get a better sense of who the people are. But lots of, as the recent article out here, lots of strategies on how to create the community. Again, it's something intentional that the faculty member does, just like you do in the classroom. Okay, so I'm moving. Any comments on social presence and community? Answer questions. Everybody's good. What happens when you go to teach online? And I'm hoping everybody will have a chance to do at least one little lesson. Some had opportunities as being in a course as a student, but of course the teacher on the other end is a little different view. And so work around and find a faculty member who's teaching an online course and see if you can at least chat with them and peek in their course, and if not, to teach a little module or lesson or something. So what happens when you go out here and get in one of the courses? Well, this I noticed over the year that I've done this and talked to faculty who were doing it. From one, the part is that you are an expert in the classroom and you move to be novice, because it's really a different experience, both of designing the course and of being in it. And it takes a little while to kind of get over that hurdle, because we know what we're doing in the classroom. We know how we are teach out to the students, and we can get some quick feedback. But then we have to the novice mode, where we're learning it all over again, and we're learning to respond to different cues. That's one thing that happens. But the other thing, in the classroom, we always talk about trying to move it to focus on the students and less on the teacher and the teaching. It's on the learning, and try to empower and facilitate the students. Well, online course, you absolutely have to be in that mode, and that's one reason why I like it and why I like faculty to have an experience of it, because once people come into the classroom, every time I've talked to a faculty member who's taught online and then they go back into the classroom, they change their classroom approaches, because they've learned what it's like to let go and give up and not be the person that's the funnel to the sponge, but more looking at what kind of learning activities can you design that's going to help the students meet the outcomes, learning outcomes. And of course, you'll get some more tech skills, and we all get our tech skills either back today or we learned them for using this technology, but everybody's doing good. And the way that the students are in the class is different, but you get used to that, and I know when somebody's upset or when they're having trouble or trouble learning, and you kind of have to learn how to do that. And here's the other thing that can is, and I'll use myself an example. Usually when I teach in the classroom, I can get that ready the night before. I can put that off to the last thing because I know I can walk in there and mutter and do something in there without having 10 hours getting it ready. Although I should, but we often work on the fly. But when you're online, you have to have this all organized ahead of time. So that's another thing. Once you get these courses ready, you're good to go because it's all done ahead of time. So you expect that your teaching is going to change, and probably the first semester, first course that you teach, fully in an online environment, you'll through some of these changes. So you can be prepared for that, but do know that you're going to land on your feet on the other end. This is what I see for myself, and when I talk to other faculty who have put their courses online, the course really gets thought out better. You have a chance. We forget what we do in the classroom. I remember the first time I taught, I wrote out every word in my lecture, and it took hours, and then faster and faster. But so for the anyway, courses will be better and organized better because you have to think it through all over again. What you do now intuitively, you'll have to go back and think and make maybe even different instructional decisions. You can push the students to a level because we're just not, giving the PowerPoint lecture in class. We're really probing them to think. We can see what they're thinking. We see what everybody's thinking because if we're having them do a learning activity, you see the outcome. I saw the sampling of the 3 people who participated. I could see what was going through your mind. So we get a lot of higher level learning. The playing field gets leveled, and what I always liked is the people that you might not have expected to have such deep thoughts really do, and they come forth and share a lot of information, and maybe they would be just sitting in the classroom thinking all these thoughts, but they either choose not to or don't want to speak up. But everybody loses, the great ideas that the students who don't are high vocal in a classroom. Levels the playing field. It also keeps who are high verbal keeps them on the level playing field too. But anyway, also because it feels that it's a way of meeting the students' needs in a different way than you can in the classroom. So you will end up with some certain amount of satisfaction here. But there's getting around it. There's workload involved here. But let's talk about how you can manage that a little bit. And I know from my experience that it's not easy to manage. This is my own fault. So I try to get smart now here as I design things and make sure it's something that I can deal with. So you want to have the big bang assignments so that you're not dealing with a whole bunch of things. Like one example I'll say is when you're teaching test construction, maybe I'm having them write question and then write, well, I did start with the test plan. That was one assignment, and then I had them write the question, and then I had them blah, blah, blah. There's 7 steps to it. But now I just have them develop a test, put all the elements together, and that's the one assignment. And I used to have them write 10 different kinds of test questions, and I sample. I have them do 1 or 2, so I'm not reading 10 different test questions. So that's a great example of trying to get your assignments big and not having to do a lot of grading. Every assignment that you're going to put a grade to, you're going to have to spend time. So you can simplify your grading, by having the peer review of written work ahead of time. Have a peer APA, look ahead of time, or get your grading rubrics going. What we do in the class is not big stuff. So be sure you're focusing on really important, need to know, need to learn, need to be competent with kinds of things. And here in the green, which means go, we have to be clear. Our job is to to design the course and facilitate it, but students have to do the work and learn and attain the competencies. So start putting a lot of stuff out there that's easy for the students to grab, but we're the ones that are learning how to content together. We probably don't. That's maybe more than we need to do. So about that. So the first step is get that course easy to manage. The next thing is when you're choosing these assignments or even the learning activities, but we'll say the assignments here, make them short. That 1 minute paper, you can lot in that short little thing. And I would say, I say to when they're writing it out and putting it up, posting it up, I say 3 sentences. They have to really focus. You want to have assignments such that you're giving form of evaluation as you go along and feedback. So when you get to the end and you have to grade it, the students have had time to, adapt or fix problems that they're having as they go along. So you're not giving a grade at the end that's you wish you didn't have to do. Particularly, like a paper, you want to be sure that you've seen bits and pieces of it as it comes along. Again, assignments do you need, and everyone that you make that you're going to grade, you deal with. So be practical. The rules, we talked about that. The other thing is, keep the assignments coming throughout the course instead of everything all due at the end. You'll kill yourself trying to get everything done. Again, as much as you can have the students do either peer review or self-review assignments where they can, get the grade. Test tool in your learning management systems. You can give them all kinds of, multiple choice or any kind of test really. And then click. They can answer the answers, and they can keep chatting until they get them all right. So use some of those kinds of things. That's good. Okay. Management. You want to be sure that you're not spending more time teaching than you that's practical. And we'll say after I got my courses designed and maybe taught them once because it does take a little more time then, I said to myself, if I were teaching this course in the classroom, I would be spending 3 hours a week in the classroom and say 1 or 2 hours a week, with grading or talking to students or whatever. So say 5 hours. And I tried to make sure I wasn't doing any more than that. It's really easy to get lost in these courses and be spending 5 hours a day instead of 5 hours a week. So be sure that you, are being thoughtful about not letting this infringe. And let's see, I want to be sure that we talk office hours so you can talk to the students. In bigger courses, small groups. And it's better for the students because then they're reading what's posted for, say, 8 or 10 students rather than a class of 70 or 80. And try high-order, high-level learning activities that have short responses. That 1 minute paper is a pretty good example of that. And we can butt up to the highest, the most. You can make it more complex what we did today. That little 1 minute paper. So you can see in a short period of time how you could read through 100 of those and get the gist of who understands it and who doesn't. Okay. Well, just like in the classroom, we're having more and more students in our online courses too, and so we need to think about how we're going to deal with that when the time comes, or when it's upon us. So one comforting fact that I always like to remind myself is that the bigger the class doesn't mean that the learning is going to disintegrate. So we can high-level learning and good learning outcomes and 100% competency attainment in large courses, but we have to be mindful of how we put the courses together. Those best practices absolutely need to be present. So be sure that everything that you're doing in your large class, that you're engaging all 7 of those principles. And again, kind of making many groups to do it, to get the students so that they are working, to get a small group and not having to read a lot of stuff. And that the other thing that I was doing, my courses were getting big, was having a group put together the paper. And then instead of reading 3, I was reading 8 or 10. So you can be thinking about, strategies like that if you're ending up with a large course. I'm going to talk fast here because I want to allow, about 5 or 10 more minutes for questions and comments. So simple. KISS. Keep it simple, silly. Sampling strategies. That classroom, you ask a question, you don't get everyone to answer. You get 3 or 4 people like we did today raising their hands. I could tell that people were back. Everybody then saw 3 examples. They could compare their own work to the examples that were given, and we're done. But in an online course, if you pose a question, maybe you're going to be getting 80 answers. So you could divide them into groups, or say people with last name beginning with A, B, C are answering this question, D, E, and F are answering another one. So you don't have to have, pretty soon, there's not much that can be said about the topic. So, you can kill things that way. Okay. Use simplification tools. All these tools. Learn how to, if you don't know how to use any of these, make sure you do. And then my lesson learned is to save everything, because you need to recreate it every time. So once you get some things going, recycle, reuse, recycle. Okay, I'm going to stop. We're going to have questions, so get them ready. Here, I'd love for you to do as a follow-up, and those of you that are new, I didn't put this in my format. I'll get back to that for the next sessions, but I usually like to have some kind of activity for you guys to do, and I would love for you to, if you have never been in an online course, at least get in one and look at it, and better try to get in a situation where you teach it. Because what's going to happen is when you get a job as a faculty member and you're busy with your research or you're busy with your clinical practice, and your dean says to you, this semester you're going to be teaching online, and you're starting from scratch, that's going to be a big disruption to your other work that's going on. So be sure that you, while you have a luxury of time here, and I know you don't think you do, but you do, while you're a scholar, be sure that you, experience of doing something in a distance ed format, in addition to knowing how to be excellent participants in webinars. Okay, so think about those 7 principles, because they're so wonderful. All right, thank you. I want to remind you here, coming up next CLC sessions, and we're going to take questions here in a minute, so get them ready, get your hands raised. We're talking here, it's December 9th. The first one is on, this is another topic that you guys wanted on the agenda. So Carolyn Huerta is going to talk to us about the students, who have English as an additional language. And she'll probably talk a little bit about cultural competence. And I know we've had a session similar to this, and but I think it bears repeating, and maybe it will have new meaning for you now, because our classrooms are getting more and more diverse, and we need to be thinking of the strategies that will be helpful to all students in our class. The Career Builder, and it really is for the current master's students who are graduating in where you are, April, May, June, August, whatever it is, coming up sooner than you think. We're going to talk about how to find the ideal academic appointment, and Susan Sachs and I will share our thoughts with you. And it's welcome, but for sure we're expecting the master's students to show up here. So let's go back, and what kind of questions do you have? What's not clear? Muddy points? Sheila, I see your hand, so I'll call on you. Next, unmute.
Hello?
Hi, Sheila.
Hello?
Yes, I hear you.
Hi. I have a question. I taught one online class, and then I did a practicum teaching one module for somebody else. I keep running into the same, and it doesn't seem like it's a problem when people talk about it, but I perceived it to be a problem. When there were group assignments, and a lot of students, so it sort of made sense that there would be group assignments. I got the feeling that it was one student doing the work.
Yeah.
That in the practicum, I actually had a sense in reading that people, okay, you take this assignment, you take assignment 5, I'll take assignment 6. But different voices. It didn't sound like a combined voice. And even on the discussion board, some people would have like everyone in the group join in the discussion and ask questions. Other people, the 2 people would ask a question as one, but you knew really only one person was doing that. I mean, is that okay? I just got the sense that not everybody was actually doing the work.
Okay. Well, you can take a couple of views on this. One thing is if you want to take a competency outcome approach where you want everybody to get to the end, but you don't need to mind or care how they get there. If they do have to get there and meet the outcomes of the course. So if lifting all weight, but they can do competency, then you can take the position that that's okay, and maybe they're learning in a different way by processing the information, learning from their classmates, and you can give some trust, and that's often how I operate. By the way, if you want to be sure that everybody's doing there, you can put in the controls for that, and they run like this, that everybody has a role, everybody has to put something up and sign their name to it, or what piece of the paper they wrote they have to put their name on it. The rubric says that everybody participates in the discussion, and you're kind of grading them on that, or there's those complicated formulas we use sometimes in the classroom to be sure that the small groups are working together, where you do the peer review and all of that. When you start putting in all those controls, you have to implement them. And that's to be more work. So you have to decide what's more important for the students' learning. And you take a look at your current life. If you're on a curriculum committee or faculty meeting, or even when I do collaborative writing with my colleagues, now he's lifting the 10-pound weight. Many of them are lifting the 1 pound. So it's part of life, too. But you decide how much control you want. And it's probably to think about what, in addition to attaining the competencies, is there something else that you want the students to do?
I think that if I had to do what I had done again, I may have left it, the groups on certain projects, but then included some individual projects.
Sure. And the thing is, some students do not like working in groups. It's a learning style. It's a proven style. And what I have done there, because that was something that kept coming up in the course evals, they didn't like working on these group projects. I would say, if you prefer working in group, here's the general gist of the group. If you're not going to work with a group, do it at home, but you have to do the whole thing. So you can. That's the other beauty of the notion of diversity. Give them options.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I see Lisa has her hand up. So Lisa.
Can you hear?
I do.
Hi. I taught a course where I did have one class during the semester be an online type class where it was like a PowerPoint, and I had the audio and case study, and I had broken the students up into small groups of 8, 9, or 10 based on their clinical size group. So they had to respond to each other's clinical or members in their clinical group. And then throughout the segment of the online class, I had questions that they then found on one of their exams.
I'm sorry, I had to call back in.
The question I have is, I really like the webinar format.
Yeah.
How much would something like this cost to really
meal?
What did you name it?
Well, budget for an individual school of nursing to get access to this unless you have a grant is probably prohibitive. But you could poke on, where are you teaching?
I'm teaching right now.
But where are you? Oh.
Seacrest College in Pennsylvania, and I remember asking them about webinars and whatnot and distance learning, and they said the same thing. It was prohibitive, and they couldn't even consider doing it. But they never told me how much it cost or anything like that.
Well, it's hard to cost out, but a lot of the costs, putting one like this is how many participants you have, how long it is, how much tech support you need from the company that you're purchasing this from. But I would say ask beyond the School of Nursing. Often the tools are well hidden at the university level. And if you ask and stand feet a little bit, they are easily accessible. My policy is not to take no for an answer. And if you are saying to ask at the university level, maybe there's some other people on the campus and other departments that want to do it too. You can band together with them and kind of push the university into buying it. The site licenses for the university are less expensive, and many universities are, some of it's a toolkit at Adobe, some of that's just add-on to, the Adobe Reader and some of those products that they already have. That is the brand that most universities that I'm familiar with use. I think there's some functionality like this with Blackboard. You could look and see if your existing learning management system has some extension capabilities for this.
We had e-college, but when you say it's prohibitive,